أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Before we start this session with our prayer, I wanted to play a short video clip, which it's very relevant to our discussion, which is about the prayer for the Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. What happened to it? So let's watch that, and then after that, inshallah, we will recite the dua. Okay? Just give me 1 second.
Good question. First of all,
the audio here is low, right?
It's fine, actually, from our side.
You, yes, but for friends here, no. The question is, why should we pray for the safety and of the awaited Imam alayhi salam, despite him being strong and being the Hujjatullah?
good question. First of all, let's imagine we're living in the time of the Prophet, and we heard that the Prophet was ill and in pain. Would we not pray for him? It's not that the Prophet needs my du'as, right? But me praying for the Prophet is an expression of my love towards Rasulullah. And if the Prophet was sick, wouldn't I pray for him? Now, the Imam of our time is in more pain than we could ever begin to imagine. Number one, because he's all alone, bi abi huwa wa ummi. May my parents be ransomed for him. The Imam's loneliness is worse than Imam al-Hussein on the plains of Karbala. Al-Gharib al-Tarid, the hadiths called him. The lonely one, the outcast. Why he's an outcast is something we'll talk about inshallah in the future. It's a painful discussion. So number one, he's alone. Number two, imagine a father whose child gets killed. The grief they experience is unimaginable. Am I wrong? Now imagine the father of this entire community seeing all of these tragedies, seeing the persecution, seeing the killings, seeing the carnage, seeing the massacres. What he goes through on a daily basis is beyond description. Number two. Number three, the fact that Imam al-Mahdi remembers the tragedy of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein every single day. وَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَمَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ عَلَيْكَ بَدَلَ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. So the pain that the Imam is going through is 1,000,000 times worse than the pain of someone who is simply ill, physically suffering. And so, given that he is in this state, you said the Imam is strong? Of course he's strong. But so was Imam al-Hussein on the day of Ashura. So was Amir al-Mu'mineen when he was struck by Ibn Muljam. At the end of the day, the Imams were humans. In other words, they suffered the same pains, and they got hungry and they got thirsty, and they grieved when they lost a loved one. The Imam is the embodiment of all of these pains. Now, does he need my du'as and my prayers? Who am I? Who am I compared to Imam al-Zaman? But I need him. And so, as I said last night, when you pray for the Imam, he prays for you. You show him that you care for him. And Allah loves us because of that.
If you are a non-native English speaker who wants to reduce your accent and speak clear, confident American English,
How did you? Okay,
minutes.
All right. So with that, I think we can, inshallah, start with the prayer for the health and protection of Imam alayhi salam. With that reminder in mind, inshallah, that with that we are showing our love, we are showing our connection, and asking him to pay his attention to us to this gathering and all gatherings that we have. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم اجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So two things. Last session, if you remember, we ended with one question that was in the chat. We didn't have time to address. I remember that. I don't know if the sister who asked remembers that or not. I think she is remembering. And also, there was a good suggestion before we get to the discussion. We asked those that they had the chance to read or skim through the book if they have any question, anything, because at the end of the day, this discussion circle meant to be a review for the Kitab of Mikyal al-Makarim. We will do that here, but to respect those that they care more or just spend more time on reading and having, coming here prepared. So we start with that. Anyone has any question from chapter 1, 2, and 3? 3 we have not started yet, but 1 and 2, or if we stick with the terminology of the English version, they called it what part. I corrected them, Faisal. Thank you for the reminder. Right? Any comment? Any question? All right. So let me check. Yes.
Shirazi. Yes, I got a question in chapter 2, in the first part, I think point number 20.
Yeah.
In the book.
Point, you mean the hadith or chapter?
The hadith.
Okay.
باب الثاني. Number 20. ما رواه في صحيح عن أبي هشام داود بن القاسم الجعفري قال سمعت أبا الحسن صاحب العسكر. Who is he referring to in this part?
Yes, that's Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. So we have, if I'm not mistaken, 3 imams that their kunya is Abu al-Hasan. One is Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi alayhi. Second is Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. And third is Imam al-Hadi, right? So, and it's a side note, but I know some people are interested in the hadith discussion. This is one of the actually smallest challenges when we have Sami'tu Aba al-Hasan. Who is that Abu al-Hasan? So the scholars, they try to find like clues and hints in the text, the context. They can, with a good probability, say who that person, who that imam was. Like, for example, who is narrating from him? If Salman says Sami'tu Aba al-Hasan, of course it's Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen. And sometimes again Abu al-Hasan al-Thani they use. So those terminologies, people that they are familiar with the hadith, they can tell. Like this one, what is the hint? What is the clue that it was Imam Hadi? I think you can say, Abdullah, yourself.
Because he said Sahib al-Askar.
Ahsan, Sahib al-Askar. Who was the Sahib al-Askar? It's the name and the title of Askariyin. So Sahib al-Askar, it is Imam al-Hadi, who was Abu al-Hasan, the father of Imam Hasan al-Askari. I will also, there is a comment in the chat. I will share the link in the main Telegram channel for everyone, inshallah. So any other comment or question? Okay. Anyone online? Question? No. Okay, so I go back to the question from last week, which I want to read, and then I copied for myself, and then see what are your thoughts before we continue. You know, last week we talked about the 4 different concepts, right? The necessity of existence of the Imam alayhi salam. On that title, we talked from 2 perspectives, from aql, from the nas, and also the necessity and obligation to know him, to have the ma'rifah, to have the cognizance of the Imam, also from aqli perspective and from the nas. And in that context, there was a question that said, why is our Imam alayhi salam in hiding and we can't communicate with him openly when we have questions? I know the Imam has ambassadors, but each marja has a different viewpoint towards different situations, which further complicates things. Okay, that's a very great question. Like always comes when we have this discussion. So let's see if anyone has any comments or response or thoughts about this question to share. Any thought? Yes? Okay, why you're silent? Okay, others, everyone? Anyone? Yeah. I mean, they mentioned the fact that we can't communicate, right? So I think the root of this question, which is very, as I said, relevant and valid question, is the discussion that we had earlier, right? That the whole concept of hujjah, Allah sending representatives and sending the messengers, is why? To not leave us alone, to have a what should we call it, a shelter, a place to go to, a refuge, right? And also receive guidance. Allah nuru samawati wal ard. So Allah doesn't leave us alone, otherwise the whole creation would be aimless. So when we have all these discussions, the valid question, immediate question after that is, okay, well, what about now that we can't see the Imam, we can't communicate with him, which actually the question can be expanded to the areas and the times that we had the same problems, like between time of Isa alayhi salam and our prophet, which is called the era of Fatra, wrongly translated as gap, wrongly commonly translated as gap, and things like that. So what is the answer? How should we understand and look at that question? Yes.
I think you mentioned it last session as well, but the gist of it is our job is not to understand the how. Just like we ask Allah, oh Allah, give me rizq. Allah's gonna do it in his own way. So that's how we should communicate with the Imam. Oh Imam, like help me with this, help me with that, or answer this question for me, increase my knowledge. He knows how to do his job. Our job is just to ask. So that's our way of communicating.
Okay, can you be more specific about the question when the question was, well, okay, you say, or you may say that Imam has representatives, supposedly Maraja, but we don't see any consensus, right? Starting from the moon sighting all the way to a lot of other fun stuff that can be sometimes even heated. So let's be honest, right? We don't have ta'arufat here. So in that case, you are saying that Allah has not done his job in terms of guiding me, in terms of showing the path. What's going on? You basically contradicted yourself. I mean, the question is to me.
But having that system of Sharia doesn't negate the fact that the Imam is there, because the Imam, that's how he left it to us. He said to follow a group of folks that are knowledgeable, that spread the knowledge of the Imam, the Muhaddithin. So that's the system he left us with. So we are following up the Imam's command by doing this.
Okay.
The differences are there. If anything, there are mercy to us. Those differences.
By the way, friends online, I have to check this. Do you hear? Can you hear?
Yeah, Faisal's voice is loud and clear to me.
Maybe because you are used to Faisal's voice. Joking. So for you it's easy. Okay. There is another comment in the chat. Communication channel is wide open, by the way. And there's another question. What was the question again? The question was, let me start again. The question came after we had this discussion of the necessity of having a godly person on earth, which was to guide, to have purpose in life, the purpose in creation, right? Not being aimless, not being abath, as Quran said. So that's the foundation. When we see an era like the time of Ghaibah, that we cannot openly communicate with the Imam, going to him and getting our responses and guidance and help and all, like the time of other Imams, that foundation will be challenged. That doesn't work. That axiom, basically, that asl is challenged, right? It doesn't work right now, basically, right? So how the Imam in this time, Imam alayhi salam, is fulfilling that necessity that we started our conversation, and we based our argument on that. Does that make sense? Does the question make sense? Like you said, at all times there should be a godly person. Why? Because Allah will guide everyone. Okay. Someone who I cannot see, I cannot communicate, I cannot go to, all of those, that necessity is voided. It's not fulfilled. Reza, is the question clear now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. To add to what yes, go ahead, brother.
Yes. So just a kind of so does this hujjah needs to be a human being, or can it be something else, like the Quran, like the hadith of Ahlul Bayt?
So that argument, yes, it should be a human being, and that's the whole point here. Otherwise, Prophet Adam could suffice after him, right? Would be enough. Yes, we don't have time to go to details. I know that you were in the Friday discussions that once upon a time we had about the necessity of having a living hujjah on earth. But yes, that's the point. There should be a living person, godly person appointed by him to do that, to fulfill that need and necessity.
Agha Shirazi, may I add a little bit to this context here? Yeah. Well, because if there wasn't a living human on this earth, then us humans can make the argument, if we were to follow the wrong path or make mistakes or, God forbid, commit sins, then we as humans, we can make the argument to say, well, we didn't know what the right path was, and if we don't have a human being to guide us, so say, the explanation was, okay, there's a reason that was metaphoric for us to have a guide, then we as humans can say, well, how does that apply to me? Because I'm a human and you're giving a metaphoric example for me to live by. So human beings need another human being to guide us, to be applicable for us. So that's really the only way that we can follow the right path, is for us to have another human being to model our behavior and our actions by.
So frankly speaking, can you make that argument now?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So
If that's the whole point. If you can elaborate on that, I think the question is answered. that what is the question will be narrowed down to this point, that how Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, while being in ghaibah, while we can't physically have access, go meet and greet him, is fulfilling that specific thing that you said, being hujjah. Hujjah means proof that you can bring to the trial, to the court. So if you can elaborate on that, I think the question is answered.
Sure, yes. May I continue, Agha Shirazi?
Of course.
Okay, great. So last week we also said that the reason why Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is in hiding is because we as humans are not ready for him. And so Allah basically says, at any point in time, from Prophet Adam to present day, there will be a proof on earth, Hujjatullah on this earth. And so it's up to us human beings to be willing to accept that hujjah or not. And so if we're not ready for that, then Allah will maintain that hujjah on earth. And in current time, he's in hiding because Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is in fear for his life and for other reasons as well. And so it's our responsibility to make the effort, to put forth the effort, to prepare ourselves, to perfect ourselves, do whatever it takes to be able to have that connection and receive the blessings and the guidance from Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. So going back to this question, so Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is the hujjah of the proof of Allah, and that since that proof is there, it's our responsibility to do the right things essentially, so we can follow the right path. And since that proof is there, and essentially the answer to everything is there, we can't make the argument and say that we didn't have the answer. It's because we didn't make the effort to get that answer. So just like a test, your teacher can say, the test is on, chapter 2, for example. Well, if I don't go and study and read chapter 2, then I'm not going to pass the test. So that's where it's our responsibility to put that effort forth to learn and understand, and inshallah pass the test.
Okay, great comments. Thank you. I want to add one more thing, and then I think maybe paraphrasing what Brother Reza said, and then move on, specifically because it was mentioned about the representatives, maraja, things like that. The bottom line is, we should know, I know that what I'm going to say may make some people uncomfortable. The solution is not maraja. The guide from Allah is who? Is Imam alayhi salam. If I know that, if I recognize that and act upon it, my entire lifestyle will change. What I mean is, Kitab al-Mikyal is not the solution. Don't get me wrong. Quran itself is not the solution. All of these can be misleading, right? You remember when last week we talked about the Hadith al-Saghalain and how Prophet encouraged us to stick and be hold firm to both of them? And the argument, the implication the Hadith had, that at all time there should be that's the Sunni quote that I'm saying, al-muta'ahhilu minhum, always a competent one of them, of Ahlul Bayt, should be available, so we can act upon the command of Prophet. So that means the maraj, everything that we think, oh, that's the ultimate solution, they're not the solution. I should remember I have a living Imam. His mercy, his guidance is reaching me, as Prophet said, as the Imam himself used this beautiful analogy of sun behind the cloud. I don't see him, but the blessing is coming. So he is behind and holding everything together. So yes, as our wazifa, as our duty, we have to follow a marja, okay? But remember, in going there, we should be connected with who is behind all of it. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, that, oh Imam, I want to recite Quran. Help me understand. Show me the light. As Faisal said, they know Allah, Imam, all of them, they know how to do their job. We should not say, oh, you should come to us, sit next to me, face to face. I want to ask the question. And we have proven examples in the history that even the companions of Ahlul Bayt, they would go to the Imam face to face. Imam said, do you want me tell you the truth? He said, no, I don't want. Because of the ego, arrogance, all of these that I have, I don't want to hear that. So don't think, because there's a hidden assumption in that question that if I go and see the Imam and get my answer, everything will be perfect. That's not the case. As I said, we have many examples which we can talk in another time, that the companions, they go to Imam, they were companions, they were not enemies. And they had some arguments and discussion with the Imam, and Imam is elaborating, but they're not accepting for a variety of reasons. And opposite, we have examples that people, they have not seen the Imam, like Uwais Qarani. I use this example. He has never been in Medina, but the level that Uwais had is something that people envy and jealous about, right? On the other side, we have companions. They lived with Prophet. They had everything, but at the end of the day, so it's not about physical connection. It's about connection. So if I see the Imam, if I am connected to the Imam, if I ask him for guidance, for help, he knows how to show the path to me. We have, again, many examples in our time. Actually, we may read some of them in the past, like the time of the Imam Askari alayhi salam, when someone from India came, how Imam guided him. He had that connection, that willingness, right? So I think that's the gist of it. If you want to be very short, we can elaborate more, bring more examples and arguments, but I think that's, I think we could talk about the gist of it. Any question, any comments on this? Was good? Okay, so let's move on. Yes.
Yes. Just a quick comment. Could we say that just as the question could be phrased that just because we cannot see the Imam doesn't mean that he doesn't exist or he doesn't have hujjah. Just as we cannot see Allah Azza wa Jal, but we can see the results of
Absolutely.
Allah's creation. We can see the effect of Imam Mahdi's effort towards us.
Even I take it to the further argument, not only necessity of existence, Allah not being seen doesn't mean he doesn't guide us. I use this example all the time. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Don't we say that in Quran? Allah is the hadi, is the guide, but we don't see him. But he is actively involved in the guidance system. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam also, and other Imams at their time, they were wajhullah, they were yadullah, they are the hujjah of God. The bottom line is we know and we feel and we believe that they are actively involved in the guidance system. This is really important. I hope one day we can talk about the Ayatul Nur, which is a very famous ayah. Some friends, they know when we talked about it in this in other discussions, how the Ayatul Nur, Allahu Nur as-samawati wal ard, in that ayah, Allah has explained his system of guidance, how the hidayah is spread in the world. So the Imams alayhimus salam, even they are not being seen, they have active involvement in the guiding the people that they ask and they seek guidance. That's the bottom line, right? So, and they do at tamassuk, the one that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said. Okay, so let's move on. I hope we can I like the discussions, by the way, and also I ask friends, please provide your comments because today is a little bit different than last 2 weeks, right? How do you feel about this style, and what are your thoughts? So let's move on. So last week we read one hadith under the title of obligation to know him in light of the scriptures, the necessity and the obligation. So there was another hadith I wanted to read, I wanted to mention, so we couldn't have time. If we can do it now, that would be great. Anyone online or offline? Should I call you offline? Online or in person, wanted to read, volunteer to read? This is the hadith of number 12 in the subset, in the part 2. Sorry, part 1. Come on. Yes, please, Yusra Khan. Thank you. Yes. Just a little bit louder so they can also hear.
This book also narrates from Imam Mahdi from his respected forefathers. The Holy Prophet said, "Whoever denies Quran from my progeny during his occultation dies the death of ignorance." The same book also contains a tradition related from his eminence, Imam Jafar Salih who quotes that the Holy Prophet said, "Whoever denies the Quran from my progeny has in fact denied me."
So again, they were the text about the necessity of knowing the Imam, and we talked about the death of Jahiliyyah and death of ignorance. So which shows that we don't want to be among those people, which is not good. We want to be among an'amta alayhim. That's what we ask Allah to be among them. Yes.
Someone will come. I think
Yes, they should come to the podium to read if there is one. There is a table covered with the beautiful green cloth. So, okay, thanks for the comment. Or we should have this microphone moving around. All right, so let's move on. Go to now, when we talked about the necessity, we go on how. Now we want to recognize and have the ma'rifah and know the Imam of our time to avoid dying and being among the pagans or death of Jahiliyyah, right? So that we can do as the Kitab of Mikyal in the part 2 discuss Sahib Mikyal. It can be done via two approaches, 2 tools, 2 instruments. One is scriptures, one is miracle. Ayatollah Isfahani has a good argument in the book, which says, what is it? Let me ask the question. So you all know about the miracles and how prophets, they prove their prophethood using miracles and all, right? If someone was present in the day of Ghadir and saw, they were there, they saw prophets, and he announced Amir al-Mu'mineen, and people did the bay'ah. So after that, do we need a miracle? If that person, like few months after, for example, the prophet's death, they come and say, "Oh, Ali, I was at Ghadir, but can you just, to make sure, show me a miracle that you are the one?" How do you feel about that? How is that argument or request valid? Does that make sense? Why?
You already trust the prophet, and whatever he says should already be good on him. So
yes. So basically, Nas means Nas is a very tricky word in Arabic, right? I had, as you know, hard time finding a very, good or the best translation. Scripture, okay, I can live with it, but doesn't do, because Nas can be like pointing without any word, like is direct, precise, appointment slash description, all of that, right? So anyway, when we say nas, we go to like scriptures usually. If someone was, but again, the person who was present at Ghadir, the sermon of Ghadir serves as nas. It doesn't have to be a scripture. Actually, that's stronger because I was there, I saw, and that's it. If I bring up doubts, that's the shak that is called active shak. That some doubts are out of ignorance, which is fine. I don't know. I cannot say. We may see a random Sunni says, I don't know. I cannot come to conclusion that which side was haq. Okay, this is one type of shak, doubt, uncertainty. The other type is active shak, active questioning. That's why we have some of the ahadith, a category of ahadith, la tubtilu, if I'm not mistaken, yaqinakum bishak, something like that. So that is active, that I know I was on the day of Ghadir, now I'm questioning. So this is the shock that we have narrations about, like, this is not accepted. He already did not believe the thing he saw. Even with miracle, he still would not believe. That's true. That's a valid point. But we want to say even that request is not valid because you were there. So when we talk about the scriptures and miracles, we want to differentiate between those two. So, but let's move on because the point is just, as you remember, just go through the main points, and then inshallah, whoever is more interested, they can read more. There are two categories among the text that we have, the scriptures that we have received. That itself is a very interesting topic, how we have received or how the treasures of the words of the Imams and Prophet reached us. So in that discussion, the question is, when we look at the ahadith, we see the two categories of text implying the imamah of Ahlul Bayt. One is the general topic, I would say. They specify the total number of the imams, which leads to the knowing the imam. And yes, because we have the numbers, that should match. And also we have a specific text about each imam, which is very interesting. Let me show the table and then we can talk about it. Among the books that is very among the good books written about Imam Mahdi alayhi salam is a recent book, Muntakhab al-Athar, written by Ayatollah Safi, who passed away, I think, 2 years ago, 1 year ago. This is a great book. I know some of the audience, have started reading it. Sometimes they have the question, which is a very valid question, that it becomes boring. That I open one chapter, it has 323 hadiths repeating the same thing. It's too boring, isn't it? It is. But what is the value of that? Why someone like Ayatollah Safi spends time, which was actually encouraged, I should mention that, by Ayatollah Burujerdi, because he wrote this book when he was very young, Ayatollah Safi. So it was encouraged by Ayatollah Burujerdi that do that. So why someone would spend time gathering 323 hadiths that says the same thing? Like, give us a break. Muhammad, yeah. Be very loud or come to the podium.
I look at an encyclopedia that someone who needs specific hadith or specific evidence has that available to them.
Okay. It's been like an encyclopedia that if they want something, they can find it there, right? Any other thought? This process is important to prove authenticity of hadith. Okay, very good point, Brother Reza. Yes, Abdullah?
Yes, so one point could be given that in order to remove shak, so okay, you don't trust this source, you don't trust this author, I'm going to give you another 322 hadiths. So you have 323 sources for you to at least have one trustworthy one in order to complete the meaning.
Very good point. Yes. Again, this is another topic in the history of hadith that we discuss. You don't need there is no only one way of authenticating a hadith or authenticating a concept and say, okay, this is based off the hadith that we have. And this is very common. I want to make it very simple, not complicated for us. If we have received the news in our community, we have a lot of them, right? This happened, that happened. But if we hear it from 300 different untrusted sources, I'm not saying those are untrusted, by the way, but I'm just saying as an example. How do you feel about it? If 300 people tell you, Amir, that tomorrow there is no program at Markaz, will you show up? 300 calls, 300 messages. Yeah, 300. Bro, two of them text you, you will not show up. I bet on that, right? Yes. So you can't say, oh, there should be a conspiracy. Untrusted, I don't mean like lawyers. The people that you don't know. Random numbers that you don't have them saved in your phone book. You receive message from them that there is a fire in Markaz. Rush. So I don't know them. I don't care. Right? That's one of the main reasons that this will not be boring. It will be a very useful for people that they say, oh, we don't have enough proof, by the way, from the hadith, from the text, from the scriptures. No, we do. We have, you see the table here, 323 hadiths that says, and that they imply the total number of the imams being 12. And that is important because that shows, even if you don't have historical evidence, that shows there should be an imam after Imam Askari. And some of others, they are very specific, right? Specifying the number of imams, and the first of them being Imam Ali, and the last of them being Imam Mahdi. We have them. أولهم أخي Ali wa akhiruhum waladi. Mahdi and other names of the Imam. We have those hadiths from Prophet, from others. Even like we have a lot about Imam Mahdi alayhi salam being from the offspring of Imam Hussein. And again, you see the table. I don't want to read all one by one. So this is the quick summary of what we have in the scriptures about the Imam alayhi salam. Yes.
So, mainly the question applies to all of them, but specifically the last section in the table, specifying the names and titles of the imams. Is that from Sunni sources, Shia sources only, or?
Some mixed. So generally speaking, mixed, but like the last one, they're mainly from the Shia sources. But Ayatollah Safi has gathered both, like from Sunni and Shia sources. So it's good. At least I suggest just you skim through that book, Muntakhab al-Athar, which is interesting. That's why it's called Muntakhab al-Athar. Athar, it translates in Farsi sometimes as effect, but also it means text, book, right? Yeah. So Muntakhab means selection, like selections from the books, that the primary sources that we have. All right, so we are running out of time. We have 10 minutes. So there are a couple of beautiful stories and reports that it's worth mentioning and going through them, which are interesting. And that was one of the points that I sent to the group, that think about it, and I think we may not have time today, but we'll talk about it. Let me give you a quick historical timeline. So one of our oldest primary books and most authenticated ones is what? Kitab al-Kafi, which the author passed away, Sheikh al-Kulaini, the same time as the minor occultation ended. So he was living his entire life in the Ghaybat al-Sughra, as they call it, minor occultation. So he was very close to the events that happened during the time of Imam Askari, late Imam Hadi, and early time of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. And after that, we have Sheikh al-Saduq, who was also very close. He was later, a little later, he was born by the dua of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam during the time of minor occultation, by the request that his father sent through one of the ambassadors. So they are from those books, right? Mainly from Kamaluddin and Kitab al-Kafi. They open the chapter, again, remember we are under recognizing via scriptures. The reports that they received from people that they had seen the Imam alayhi salam in his early time, which is very important, because imagine Imam Hadi and Imam Askari, they were Abu al-Askar, Sahib al-Askar. They were basically forced to live. They were not, I mean, they were also in prison, but they were living in a fort, okay, under surveillance. Like they were not free. They were not in prison, again, as I said, but they were house arrest. Yeah, house arrest is good word. Also, being in a house arrest and fort, you have some agilities, basically, can go out, buy stuff, things like that, but you're under watch. So what do you expect? That's what I'm saying, the importance and significance of those few, more than few, stories and accounts that Sheikh al-Saduq and Sheikh Kulaini, who were very close to that time, they have narrated. For example, this one, the story of Ahmad ibn Ishaq, who was the representative of Imam Askari in Qom. Thank you. Okay. And then another person whose name is Sa'd ibn Abdullah Ash'ari. He is very, very important figure in that time. He has one book called I forgot the name. It's about the groups of Shi'as, Farag Shia, similar to the book of Nobakti. Anyway, let me not go to those details. So Sa'd says, I want to read the story, I mean, quickly. And this is important, how people have reported this, right? So Sa'd said, in my wording, I was a nerd, right? Caring a lot about reading a lot of books, and he was, by the way, going back and forth with non-Shias, arguing them, debating them, and asking them questions. And I compiled a list of questions, unanswered questions that I had challenges with, right? So I said, let me go to Qom, which that time, Ahmad ibn Ishaq was, as I said, representative of the Imam Askari in that city, and ask him this question and get help. And the questions were, some of them at least, were in the topic of imamah, right? That clock bothers me. I don't know how much, if I open the questions, which are interesting, let me start with one. So I had the discussion with the non-Shias. One of them, they said, okay, look, when Prophet was migrating from Mecca to Medina, right, which happened after 13 years of being in Mecca, who did he take with him? Abu Bakr. Who did he leave to be killed? Imam Ali. So that itself tells you who is with more priority, right? Prophet knew that Abu Bakr will be his first successor, so he took him with him to be protected, to be safeguarded, and he didn't care much about Ali because something may happen to him. Okay, people will come up with something, but the first person is important to get things together, right? So people, like Ali, were a lot. So Prophet didn't care much. How do you respond to that? And also, the second question actually is more challenging. You are saying, you Shia say that Abu Bakr, so this, what is it? This was an argument between Sa'd ibn Abdullah Ash'ari with someone, a Sunni scholar, that at the end he couldn't give a good answer. At least sometimes you can, make the other party their mouth shut, but you are not satisfied with what you said. That you use the art of arguments, which is good. But the second question was, prophets. Oh, you are saying that they were munafiq, they were hypocrites, right? So, but they didn't convert to Islam in Medina. They were in Mecca, and in Mecca there was no motivation. There was no sign of victory that they would come say, "Oh, let's be munafiq." You are munafiq. You will be a spy when there is something big, like we have Soviet, we have US. So that makes sense to have spies against each other, right? They're two big empires, government, states, whatever we call it. But in Mecca, there was nothing. Prophet was weakened. So that argument doesn't make sense, right? So I had these questions, and I had a lot more, 40 plus questions. So he says, I went to I went asked about Ahmad, and they said, oh, he left to Samarra. He left the city to go to meet Imam al-Askari. And I said, okay, good. Let me catch on a train. I'm joking. To go and catch him on the way, right? In the next station or next place that they stop and get some rest. I could, and I went to him and I told him, I have these questions. When you are going, can you ask these from the Imam? He said, okay, how about you come with us? Because again, Saad was a trusted one, because Ahmad would not take anyone with him to Samarra. So long story short, Ahmad ibn Ishaq and Saad ibn Abdullah, they go where? To Samarra. From where? Mecca. From where? Ahsan. Right. What was that pause? Am I that with a lot of ambiguity? So anyway, when we went to the Imam alayhi salam, we sat down. Imam alayhi salam, Ahmad ibn Ishaq usually will carry a lot of things that people would give to the Imam. Gifts, questions, khums, amwal, monies that they had to give, right? When Ahmad ibn Ishaq presented and put them in front of the Imam Askari, there was a very young child there. So Imam Askari pointed to him and said, take them, oh my beloved son. The son, who was Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, said, it's not allowed that our hands touch the basically unclear money, non-halal money. So Imam instructed Ahmad, take one by one all the monies that you had. I tell you, this is coming from where? Who gave it to you? This money, we don't touch it. This was from the haram business. So that one is good from that person. So one by one, Imam explained those. Again, details you can read in the Kitab of Mikyal or even in the Kamaluddin. And at the end, Imam said, what about that cloth that old lady gave it to you? You forgot that. I was like, wow, I forgot. So Imam doing this on purpose for whom? Also for Sa'd ibn Abdullah, and also to be narrated that don't look at the age. Isa alayhi salam, Jesus talked when he was just born. So Imam Mahdi started giving the hints and clues about all of the things that they brought. So now, meanwhile, Imam Askari, again, see who initiates this. He says, oh, Saad, what about your questions? You forgot to ask about them. Maybe you are so surprised about what my son is doing, telling Ahmad ibn Ishaq all the stories of these monies, where they're coming from. So Saad says, oh yeah, so you know my question. So Imam answers that, let's go about the answer those two, and then I think with that we can wrap up. The question number one that you couldn't answer with that person is, you Sunnis you have a hadith yourself that you said Prophet has said that the Khilafah after me is 30 years. First of all, get the confession from them that don't you believe in that? Yes. If that's the case, why Prophet didn't take the other two? Forget about Imam Ali. If your argument is valid, right? Why Prophet didn't take Omar and Uthman? If that taking and companionship was to protect for Khilafah, the rest, what about them? Yeah.
I'm not saying this to like
Say it. Oh, don't worry. Say it.
like talk back to the Imam or anything, but isn't it because they were already in Medina by that time? Omar and Uthman were already there.
How come?
The reason why Abu Bakr and Ali and Rasulullah were the last leave was because Rasulullah wanted to make sure that everyone had left.
Okay.
So we can assume that by that time they were already there as well.
The argument was to protection and like how should I say it? Show the value, right? The companionship, they tried to have the value, right? So how come that Prophet didn't value the others, right? And even 30 years would include like it comes not to the time of Imam Ali, right? That was no, it was actually. It was. So same argument when you say that 30 years would be Khilafah after me, why he left Imam Ali as well, right? Does that make sense? Because again, not that we accept that hadith, but this is called ilzam khas. We just make the other party to what they believe in, right? So, and the second one, why didn't you tell him that they came to be, they showed their fake belief just because tama'an, out of greed, right? Because they used to interact with Jews and Christians. They knew that they have heard from the news, and that's why Jews, they have migrated to Medina. They were they settled there waiting for a promised one or for the prophet that will come at the end of the time. They were ready, and they knew from their scriptures that basically his market, his stocks will go up. They have heard that this person will be successful. So yes, at that time there was no empire, there was no big state or big entity, but they knew that from where? From the basically Old Testament and New Testament, that this basically stock will go up. So they wanted to be among the first, tama'an, not because the question they had was they were like mukrah, like they were forced to. No, there was no force, there were no fight, there was nothing. And they were also, or you should say they had the belief in heart. No, there's a third possibility that was the case, which was out of basically long-term plan that they knew is going to happen. So I think, if you don't mind, Brother Faisal, hold on to your question because I want to be punctual. We started 10:35, we finished 11:35. I know there are going to be questions and discussions. Just remember the theme. I mean, the title that we are reading. This is not Imam Mahdi discussion. These are the questions that who Sa'd ibn Abdullah Ash'ari meant to ask Imam Askari, but Imam Askari showed him Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, ask your question from him. And those reports have reached us, which is good. Like Sheikh Saduq had interactions with Sa'd ibn Abdullah, and he was one of his teachers. So this is important that basically first-hand reports. And the good news is those books have reached us, alhamdulillah. Yes, let me read these answers and also we will adjourn by that. The answer is, or I would say, Ahmad, if you don't mind, another answer is he wanted to disclose the location of Prophet, so he had to be taken care of. or he wanted to be. Yes, that's true also. That's basically the halli, how to solve, not naqzi, just to negate the other side. Yes, that's the main reason was Prophet wanted to keep him silent because he would disclose the location of Prophet and the Meccan could capture Prophet. So with that, inshallah, we will continue next week. Again, give me comments about how I know we were slower today. I hope we can start the next part in the Kitab of Mikyal, which would be some of the rights of Imam alayhi salam on us, which is the third the third part of the Kitab of Mikyal. Any comment, any question? Yes.
Can we increase the class time? 1 hour time, at least hour?
Increase the class time. Look at others.
Like 45 hours.
Huh?
Because it's not, I feel like it's not, we're not through 2 slides. 3 slides.
I mean, yes and no. I personally prefer discussions, as you know, but some people, they say, okay, you should just go over the content as we did first session. So
No, definitely discussion should be. And that's why you should include.
Okay.
the class time. Split the time.
what are your thoughts, friends online? What are your votes?
I vote for increasing it by 30 minutes. 15 minutes beginning discussion from last class, and last 15 minutes would be discussions about what we covered today.
Okay. Others, don't be shy. Today is election day in Turkey, so you can cast your vote here if you are not in Turkey. The chapter you said? Yes, of course. So the English one? So the English one, they named it as parts. Okay, that's why I used not consistent terminology, but now I fixed it. You see, it says part 1, part 2, part 3. So in part, they have like sections, right? So part 1, basically Kitab al-Mikyal in this terminology will have 8 parts. In the first session, again, that was my mistake. I was not consistent with this version of translation. I don't know if part is good word, but not. But anyway, so when I say I tried now, I'm consistent now. I use the word part. So it has 8 parts. Okay. So part 1, essentiality of recognizing the Imam of the time. So again, I use the little easier version word, which was necessity, right? Essentiality is very cool word, right? Could you follow? Or if you want, after we are done, we can talk and I can show you both on English and Farsi version. Yeah, some of our friends, this is one of challenges and beauties of these international, like some of our friends are West Coast, so that would be very early for them, 10 o'clock. Someone says decrease just kidding, just to have an opposing vote, which is good. Earlier side time works for me, but don't increase. Okay.
So we can do it later.
I think we can go as we have.
Oh, don't you?
Maybe 15 minutes. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, little by 15 by 15. Faisal, be smart. So any objection,
2 p.m.
inshallah, any objection to, and also ask this way, any objection by increasing 15 minutes? That's also good for work, Faisal. Send an email to the feds that you want approval. If you have any objection, let me know by Friday. And usually they don't care about emails, so that's approved. Okay? Any objection to increase 15 minutes? No. Okay. So let's recite the dua and adjourn. And inshallah, after the class, we'll talk about those things. Thank you everyone for your participation, question, and sharing your thoughts and comments. That's highly appreciated. Let's recite the dua and inshallah close our session. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammadin wa ajil farajahum. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم هب لنا رأفته ورحمته ودعاءه وخيره. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد